Rafael DiFuria. He is a California native living there in Italy and not too far from where Italy had its first reported death. Rafael, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Mike. Thank you so much for welcoming me and
Okay.
having me on today.
Yeah. So tell me more about your actual location there in the country to where the
Mhm.
first reported death is or was.
I live about, say, 20 miles away from the city where this first death happened, but the village where this individual was from, it was an elderly man. I believe he was 78,
Mhm.
and that was actually a bit closer. So where I live is in the Veneto region. It's basically a state. Think of it that way. So because of how close we were to the location, the original location of this, one of the first 11 lockdowns here, that started making some of us here in my city called Rovigo very concerned, but there was still that kind of sense of it's that thing in that place over there for
Right.
now,
Yeah.
but still very close.
So when you say the lockdown, explain. I mean, we're seeing that happen
Mm.
here in the States in various cities, shelters in places.
Yeah.
But what was the exact lockdown? What happened?
So it came in stages, and the way that it happened was it first started out with 11 red zones. Then from there, it's about, say, maybe a week or two later, it spread out to the Lombardy region, which is where Milan is, and as well as 11 provinces, which are basically the equivalent of an American county. So one of those counties also happened to be very close to where I live. And so immediately for us, it was just, it all came on so fast that there was no real way to prepare for it. I've spoken to many people here through my YouTube channel that talking about this situation, and I've been hearing reports of what's going on, firsthand accounts, and people just didn't know what to expect. And by the time the lockdown was happening in Milan and the second set of 11 regions, people just they didn't know what to do.
Hmm. So, outside of China, Italy has the most reported cases, around
Mhm.
27,000. Um, I know I don't know, think you've had the answer as to why so many there, but what's the talk there in your town
So
about why so many
there's
cases there are?
So specifically in my region where I live, there was a big concern because we do have a large population of people who do go back and forth because we have a lot of students from here that go there and a lot of students that are from there that come here, but also tourism. I live, say, about in terms of the Bay Area, if you were to go from San Anselmo to San Francisco, that's how long it would take me to get to Venice on the fast train. So, because of how close we were to that and so many people traveling in and out, there were whispers in the background that people had in the back of their mind what would be happening. We didn't know how
Hmm.
the lockdowns would be happening. We didn't know if we would be affected by this. So, I can't help but wonder if the travel was what really brought it to us here and created this situation where Italy has become a victim of this global pandemic, as well as America and every other
Sure.
nation
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
dealing with this.
and we hear words of fear, we hear anxiety, we hear
Mm.
panic. What's the mood
So
there
this
right
is,
now?
I'm
What is the
sorry, I
mood?
just want to stop you right there
Please
because
do.
that is something that I've been so frustrated with, as well as a lot of other people here in Italy, that 99% of the people, even I would go as far as saying 100%, have none of us have seen this panic. There was
Mhm.
on that first Saturday, there was some panic buying, but after that, it kind of became just this sense of concern. From there, even I would say now there's a little bit of fear, but people are taking this in stride. They are handling it surprisingly well. And the way that the country is coming together, in my opinion,
Mhm.
has been so heartwarming and so impressive. Even just before you guys called,
Mhm.
there were people out because at 6 o'clock, what's been happening is people will go out on their balconies and play music. And even just the other night, we were waving flashlights at each other from window to window, balcony to balcony. So it's really been a beautiful thing to see how, even in this difficult time, we've been able to come together from a distance, of course. But I really think, though, that it's not just us, of course,
Right.
that we as a global community need to come together.
Sure, that's interesting because I'm curious. You're seeing the news here in the States. I mean, I was at the store yesterday. I saw panic buying, and I've been seeing it
Yeah,
now
no,
for
so
a good
that's been
week.
very shocking.
So, what do you think, what do Italians, when they look at us in America right now, are we overreacting?
So there's kind of two sides.
Okay.
As far as buying goes, a lot of people here seem to have the opinion that Americans are overreacting, especially because our shelves, if I went to the supermarket right now, which would, it's easier said than done because we do have some restrictions on the ability to go out. But the shelves are fully stocked. The only one item that I haven't seen in getting close to a month, maybe a little bit more, or a little bit less. I'm losing track of time here. All the days are coming together. But hand sanitizer, that's been the one thing that's been the most difficult to find. And in some areas, high proof alcohol for people who want to try to make a DIY at home hand sanitizer.
A lot of people here in the States are mad because we don't have enough tests. Would you say that you have enough tests in Italy?
So, as a non-medical professional, I'm not qualified to answer that question, but I do again have to say that I'm very impressed by the Italian government's response to this issue. And it makes me almost concerned to see how late into this that America has come, and makes me genuinely concerned for my family that still lives in Marin, who are now living under the shelter order, and how they might be dealing with the situation in a different way than how we have, because we've been closed down in different ways for a bit longer now. Yes, it did come here first. At least we started noticing it here first. But there have been the lockdowns originally where people couldn't go from region to region. But then one of the biggest updates was that we would not be able to leave our homes without a proper reason and documentation. And police are doing checks in the streets to make sure that people are actually going out for a legitimate reason.
What if you weren't? What if you were just out having a good time? What would happen?
So that's a big no-no right now. There are fines that have been put into place, as well as potential jail time. I don't know if that's been enforced yet, but it is definitely a concern because we really do need to take this seriously. And that was one thing even Dr. Fauci was talking about earlier today, was how I was shocked to hear that people in America are still going to bars and going out and meeting in groups, because we haven't been able to do that here. And really just to be at home. And I think really it's if there's anything around the world, when people have asked me on social media or through my YouTube channel, it's my only reaction to if there's any overreaction or underreaction, like you were asking before, is that maybe a lot of the world has been underreacting in some sense.
Especially the younger generations, you would say. I was going to ask you, if you had any advice to give Americans dealing with this, what advice would that be? And you can start with the younger generations. You know, as you mentioned, Dr. Fauci called them out today. He said, stop doing what you're doing. Stop going to the bars and having drinks.
Yeah, so
what's your advice?
As a young person in his late 20s to other people in this age range and younger, really, it's not worth it. Those things that you are looking for, that you want in life, and all of the problems that we deal with on a regular day-to-day basis, those will still be there. So really, try and take care of yourself, because it's not just about yourself, it's about those around you. And it's difficult to put into words really how seriously this should be taken, because there's just so many unknowns with the situation. Even for a period of time, I lived in the Middle East and lived under rocket fire, and I can say there were times that I felt, by comparison to this, maybe a little bit safer, because you knew where the rockets were coming from. You could hear them. You could sometimes see them. But with this, it's just, there's a lot of unknowns. You don't know where it could be, who could have it, how they could have it. And so maybe coming and enjoying your home, enjoying your space, spending time with your loved ones, and really taking advantage of every moment. I think that's really important to do right now.